Have a good life. We will see you soon.
President Trump's term ended on January 20th, but his big lie, that he only lost the election because of voter fraud, has kept on growing. And if you take a look at everything that's happened since he left office, you realize it's not an accident. Trump and his allies pushed bogus investigations into states he lost. The first was in Arizona, where the state Senate announced they were going to hire an independent and, quote, qualified auditing firm to conduct a review of the election in Maricopa County. The firm, called Cyber Ninjas, had never conducted an election audit before, and their CEO had previously promoted the Stop the Steal movement, so neither qualified nor independent. Per usual, Trump attacked anyone who dared to stand up to him, even if they were in his own party. At the conservative confab CPAC, he named every single Republican who had voted to impeach him the second time.
Adam Kinzinger, Dan Newhouse, Anthony Gonzalez, that's another beauty.
This enemies list had been tacitly endorsed by the GOP. Any voice unwilling to go along with the big lie is increasingly unwelcome. The result? By March, 1/3 of Americans said they didn't believe President Biden fairly won the election. Republicans realized their base was really buying into all this, and they started making it a major focus of their campaigning, and donors were more than happy to give.
How do you feel about the election? Do you think it was stolen?
Riding that energy, Republicans voted not to investigate the most violent attack on the nation's capital since the Civil War, sort of endorsing an insurrection when an election doesn't go your way.
I do not believe the additional extraneous commission that Democratic leaders want would uncover crucial new facts or promote healing. Frankly, I do not believe it is even designed to do that.
Trump supporters watching the so-called audit in Arizona decided they wanted their own. Republicans from over a dozen other states dropped by to see the operation for themselves. Several of those would take the idea home, pushing for so-called audits in their own states. State legislatures were hard at work writing solutions to a problem that really didn't exist, quote, election integrity. Most of these new laws restrict mail-in voting by doing things like decreasing the amount of time people have to request and return a ballot. 7 states tightened existing voter ID rules or made up entirely new ones. Other laws targeted election officials, like in Florida, where you can now be fined $25,000 for leaving a ballot drop box unsupervised. In July, Texas Democrats went nuclear to try to stop one of these bills. They fled the state and headed to D.C., where they hoped federal lawmakers would help them out. But that didn't happen, and the bill passed in the Texas State House in August. In September, we learned another valuable lesson about how an attempted coup can get dressed up in fancy legalese. Then Vice President Pence had been given a memo that laid out 6 steps for overturning the election on January 6th. Legal scholars say this specific plan probably wouldn't work anyway, and the author of the memo, John Eastman, says his words were taken out of context. But it showed us that the coup might look less like these guys and more like this guy. And while those guys are plotting to invalidate your vote, next year 26 states will choose their top election officials. In 5 battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada, there are Republican candidates who have said that the presidential election was stolen or should be investigated. Georgia's Secretary of State is still standing by last year's election results, which may be why Trump has endorsed his primary challenger.
I personally am running for Secretary of State to get rid of Brad Raffensperger right here in Georgia. We have got to restore election integrity in this state that Brad Raffensperger has destroyed.
Trump is endorsing candidates early on, and in races that a former president normally wouldn't care about, because he knows he might need them for the next election. But he'll still need people to vote, which is weird when you think about it. Why go vote if it's just going to be stolen? But there are still Trumpers ready to cast their ballots.
What do you want to hear from candidates that you're going to vote for? Like, what matters most to you, I
Fix
guess?
2020.
Okay.
I mean, to me, election integrity and election reform is probably the top priority. If
Okay.
you don't care about election integrity, then you might as well not even be voting, because most people are waking up now to realize that that's pretty important.
Do you think you'll vote in the 2022 midterms in 2020?
I definitely will, and I hope it's a good vote. I mean, I hope it really counts.
Obviously, we'll vote, because if they're going to cheat, we're going to make it hard on them to cheat. We're not just going to quit, because that's not standing for America. But we're not, do we trust them? Not till they get these audits fixed and the election fixed from 2020.
I'd rather say that at least I voted than to say, well, somebody else can handle it.
And after months of post-presidency campaign-style rallies, Trump finally admitted to a group of revved-up supporters in Iowa why he keeps talking about the big lie.
The single biggest issue, the issue that gets the most pull, the most respect, the biggest cheers, is talking about the election fraud of 2020 presidential election. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
He's right. This is the plan to undermine upcoming elections. Despite the fact that the big lie is causing millions of Americans to question the foundation of our democratic process, it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon.